Hey, I'm Randy and you're watching The Cheap Audio Man. Here at The Cheap Audio Man, we help folks find high-value, hi-fi home theater and headphone equipment. And today we're talking about the Aiyima T9. And I'll put it to you this way. If this was December, this would be product of the year. Today's sponsor is the Weem Mini Streamer. Even if you don't use the streaming capabilities, this little guy has AirPlay too. And for around $100, just getting this for AirPlay capabilities is worth it. But it just doesn't have AirPlay. Has Tidal Connect, Spotify Connect, pulls in your networked music, has its own application to bring in just about every streaming service known to man. Did I mention it's $100? You can optical out of this straight into your favorite DAC. Links are in the description and the pinned comment. So if you've watched any of my other videos, you may already know that I love products that come out of Aiyima. Aiyima is an Asian company and they make amplifiers, DAC amps, little tube amps, and I've always been amazed at how good they sound. Most of them employ Texas Instruments amplifier chips, so they're all Class D amplifiers. My experience with Class D amplifiers coming out of Asia has not always been, well, a bed of roses. I think a lot of them can sound thin, can sound a bit harsh on top, sterile. That's one of the reasons why I love Aiyima, because their sound signature for the most part is a richer, more full-bodied sound signature. And it's not just across the A07 and A08. The D03, which is an integrated speaker amp with a DAC and a subwoofer out, also has those characteristics. Maybe not to the degree that the A07 and the A08 have, but for less than $200, Aiyima has always gotten my recommendation because they simply sound good. That's why I was really excited to get this. This is the T9. It is a speaker amp. The T8 was basically a preamp with a headphone out. It had one tube. This one has, count them, two tubes. Remember the vampire on Sesame Street? Two tubes. Anyway, that wasn't a very good impression. Why was there a vampire on a children's show back in the 80s? I don't understand that. Anyway, you may have noticed this right here. One of the reasons why I love this thing before I ever even listened to it is because it looked like somebody broke into an abandoned sonar station from the 1950s and ripped this out of the wall and then put speakers up to it. Okay? It looks awesome. Looks like you could call in a missile strike maybe with it. Not a recent one, but 40 or 50 years ago. It's plausible you could have called in a missile strike with an item similar to this. VU meter, which works. And I don't know how accurate it is, but for me, there's something special about those 70s and 80s era receivers that had power meters, VU meters. I don't know why, I just like to see lights go with the music. Many of the most sought after 70s era receivers have VU meters, and I was so happy to see a VU meter integrated into a modern product, because they're fun. This has a volume knob right here that has clicky indentions. However, this one just spins. There's no beginning nor end on this one. It just spins, which is fine. Then you have bass and treble tone controls, which also have clickies, which I really like. A few different inputs, mostly digital. Bluetooth, you have an RCA for any analog devices you have. USB, coaxial, and optical, which means this is a fully functioning DAC. Doesn't have any fancy MQA or anything. You're just going to be able to hook up your computer, a DVD player, a game console, a television, anything with a digital out, because it has all three digital outs. Not the fancy AES or I2 squared something or other, but the ones that most normal people have. USB, optical, digital coaxial. On the back, you can see a Bluetooth antenna. Oops, I always do this. Bluetooth antenna right here. I didn't stick it in there because I took it off. And then the RCAs, and then a digital coaxial, and then a digital optical, and then a digital USB. Down here, this gets interesting, aux output, okay? Variable. And then you have your speaker connections, and then 18 to 30 volts. I had a 24 volt brick power supply. Power ratings on this, stated at 100 something, 100 and something into 4 ohms, but it's at 10% total harmonic distortion. I looked up the Texas Instruments spec sheet on this, actually. One of my patrons, Mark, suggested I do that. I did. It's the 3000 series amplifier chip, which sounds very good. Spec sheet says 4 ohms, about 100 watts into 10% THD. So that ain't happening. You're not really getting 100 watts. If you are, it's going to be a bit distorted. I would say you're probably getting around 60 watts into 4 ohms, probably at 0.1% THD. 8 ohm load, you're probably going to get 40 to 50. Either way, it doesn't matter. I ran the Polk R100s, which is a very expensive speaker. I wanted to see how this sounded on a more expensive speaker. R100s are around 600 bucks, depending upon if they're on sale or not. It ran them just fine. Actually, they sounded great on there. But I'm not silly enough to think that one is going to be hooking up $600 speakers to a $120, that's right, $120, maybe $130, $120 speaker DAC amp with Bluetooth. So I grabbed the old Mookie passive two-ways. They're $65. Actually, there's a coupon. I think they may be $64 right now. $64 speaker, which means all in, that's less than $200. You have to buy speaker cable, but many of us may have some speaker cable lying around the house. Doesn't matter. $200. Less than $200. You're getting a Bluetooth. You're getting a fully functioning DAC. You're getting a VU meter. You're getting bass and treble tone controls, that clicky. You're getting an incredible looking remote control. I'm just kidding. This doesn't feel very good, but it does work. It's got a little white ring around it. Guaranteed that's going to be rubbed off in about 3 minutes of using this. But again, it works. Even has forward and backward tracks if you're on Bluetooth. Mute button, whole bunch of buttons you don't need or probably don't work. It doesn't matter though, because it comes with a remote and it works, which means you can put this next to your television, optical out of your TV, and have this sitting up there in the dark. Think about it. Dark room, you got a glowing, yummy, golden VU meter that's bouncing around when you're watching Game of Thrones or something like that. I could never watch Game of Thrones. There's 40 characters. I couldn't keep up with them all. I kept falling asleep, and then I tried to rewatch it, and I was just completely lost. The only thing I remember is the Aquaman was in it. That's about it. Khaleesi, some blonde-haired lady that loved dragons. Jon Snow, I don't know what he did. He was on a wall somewhere. Point being, I could never get into Game of Thrones. However, this is Game of Thrones certified. So the Mookies, $65 speaker. A little bit on the exciting end, but I was amazed when I hooked those speakers up to this amplifier, how good it sounded. I don't know if the tubes are doing it or just the amplifier chip sound signature. Whatever it was, brought the Mookies to very listenable levels with their frequency response. It was quite nice. I still backed off the treble a couple of notches and brought up the bass a couple of notches. And for a very small bookshelf speaker, I had no need for a subwoofer. However, if you'd like to hook up a subwoofer, you certainly can, because it has an aux out, which means you can take a 3.5 millimeter to RCA cable, run that into your subwoofer, set up the levels and the crossover on your subwoofer, and be able to control that all from here. Pretty amazing. Also, if you ever outgrow this as far as power goes, you can buy an A07, which is a little bit beefier if you put a really powerful power supply on it, and you can get even more power, and then this just becomes a DAC preamp, basically. Mostly digital, but you do have one RCA input. Preamp or power amp. So you can start off with this, and then if you want to, add a more powerful or different power amplifier. Versatile. If you click on the link, it tells you what tubes these are, so if you're so inclined, you can tube roll. I didn't do it because, well, I don't think I have any tubes this size. But it doesn't matter because these already sound awesome. You may get a little bit more space, a little bit more air with a different tube in here. But as it is, as it comes out of the box, it sounds remarkable. There are going to be better amps out there that probably soundstage better, but for this price, we have to have reasonable expectations. And when I'm listening to a product at this price, I'm worried about how does it sound? Is it veiled at all? Is the mid-range bad? Is the treble too harsh? Is it too thin on the bottom? Answer to all those questions are no. Johnny Cash, Hurt, was remarkable. His voice was a bit stepped back because he's a bit forward in that mix, but it smoothed things out a little bit without covering up any detail. Bass may get a bit sloppy, but again, I was listening to a $65 pair of speakers. And the takeaway on that was I wanted to listen to the next track, and that's my big litmus test for a product. Those two products together are less than $200, and they made me want to listen to another track. They made me want to listen to the tracks in their entirety. They made me enjoy the music. For $200, you can be up and running in a desktop situation with the T9 and a pair of Mookies. If you ever want to scale up, this will do it. You can add more expensive speakers. This can also be one of the coolest looking soundbar replacements. Sitting up near your TV, lights off, warm orange glow from the tubes, warm yellowish glow, golden glow from the UV meters. This is an awesome product, and I would run and not walk and buy one of these if you are at all in the need for a desktop amplifier or you want to put together a soundbar replacement, because with a 3.5 millimeter auxiliary out, you can hook up a subwoofer. It has a remote control. It is one of the coolest looking amplifiers I've seen, and it's $120. In December, I would be surprised if this was not one of my products of the year. We're still not even through the first quarter yet, but I am blown away by this thing. I absolutely love it, and this will be taking up probably permanent residence for my desktop speaker amp. So if you want to support the channel, you can sign up for Patreon, patreon.com/cheapaudioman. Every Sunday night we have Patreon-only Zooms. We also have a Patreon-only Facebook group. You can also buy this through the links. Those are affiliate links, which means I will get a commission if you purchase something. It doesn't cost you any more, so it's a great way to support the channel. You can also sign up for Tidal or Amazon Music. If you do, even if you sign up for a trial, I'll get a couple of bucks. So don't binge watch anything on Netflix or Hulu. Binge listen through your new Aiyima T9 and fill your soul with happiness and really cool visual stimulation. And with that, I'm Randy. I'm the Cheap Audio Man.